Congratulations on stop motion. Give me a little rundown of why stop motion was a project you wanted to create.
Well, there's a real big story there. So, Parity Productions, parityproductions.org, if people want to know more, is a company I founded in 2016. And we advocate for women, trans, gender expansive, and recently we've added intersex artists in the theatre, New York City theatre, specifically writers, directors, and designers. And the reason I mention this is because it's related to your question.
Mhm.
So every year we award two development awards to two writers. They get one each, right?
Mhm.
$2,500 is the award, a year of development, and then the possibility of a production. In 2018, Liz Kerin, who lives in LA, so she'll be at the screening on Saturday, which is really exciting, Saturday, October 18th at noon at the Regal. I don't know when this is airing, so maybe it'll be past already, in which case I'm really sorry. Contact us at Parity to find out what's going on with the film, and we'll answer you. But anyway, so we developed the play. We did a wonderful reading, a staged reading, after having done a few other uh, passes at
Mhm.
development. We did a stage reading, and we did it in this amazing building. It's like on the 30th floor, in New York and sort of the downtown area. Really, really beautiful. Hudson Square area, actually. It wasn't not all the way downtown. Anyway, it was just such an auspicious beginning. And Liz's mother came, and part of the story is somewhat based on her growing up, which she can talk about, not me. Um, anyway, it was just a really special thing. And then that's 2018, right?
Mhm.
And what happened in 2020? We were supposed to stage the play, but we couldn't because guess what happened? The coronavirus pandemic. So we had a choice. Do we move on with other writers, or do we continue with stop motion? We love stop motion. It's such an interesting story. It's an important story. It's about caregiving. It's about how we process grief, how we interact with one another in family. There's so many things that it's about. It's about art because the main character is an artist. She's a stop
Mhm.
motion artist. Anyway, we decided instead of not continuing because we really didn't know how long the pandemic was going to go on for. And remember, Liz had won in 2018. This is now 20. By the time we discussed it, it was actually 2021. So we made a decision, which was I'm going to turn this alarm off, which I thought I'd already turned off. How rude. We made a decision to film, to put it together, rehearse it as if it were a play, as if we were putting on a production, rehearse it, run it a few times, so the actors have it in their bodies because we rehearse things very differently in the theatre.
Mhm.
Theatre is written differently than a screenplay, obviously, because in the world of film, you can jump to different locations. It's quite easy to jump from, let's say, one century to the next, or one day to the next, or everything's quite immediate, and your audience goes with you. You change locations, you change all sorts of things.
Mhm.
You move back and forward in time. It's a lot harder in the theatre, but we do it differently. We do it in a more imaginative way. I shouldn't say more imaginative. That sounds terrible because I'm not trying to diss film. It's a different set of imaginative ways because our resources are much more
Mhm.
limited because we are stuck in this one space. Unless you're doing the kind of theatre where you're moving around from room to room in a space, that's possible. I mean, there's so much possible in the theatre. Anyway, so we decided have a few run throughs, right? We've,
Mhm.
we've rehearsed it, we're ready, actors know what they're doing, have a day off. When they came back, we literally did it as you would a film, which is basically we're going to do the scenes that make the most sense together, or at least subsections of scenes, because it might not be a whole scene,
Mhm.
because the camera angle, the lighting, daytime, not daytime. And that's how we did it. We did it as a film. And I think we did it in 11 days, which
Um,
was incredible, really
uh,
incredible.
that sounds like so much work. Theater is something I'm very passionate about because I absolutely adore going out and seeing a play on stage. It's a different experience every single time you see the same play. How different was it to start this project off as a play?
Well, it wasn't different because, well, what was different? We were working in masks. That was
Mhm.
different. Even though we knew it was going to be filmed,
Mhm.
and we had our director of photography, our assistant director, who was also a producer, in rehearsal a couple of times, not even that often because schedules didn't align. That's the other thing. You know, when you're doing things for not a huge amount of money, you know, it all becomes about scheduling and how much time do you have. It's always about time. But I think it's like that even in the big budgets.
Mhm.
There's always issues, right? Time or resources or whatever it is, scheduling. But so I think we forgot about that. We really focused on what the medium is. Well, the medium is it's a play.
Mhm.
So we rehearsed a play, put out of our minds that it was going to be filmed later, because we needed to really lean into the play, because Liz had written a play. Now that sounds a little crazy, but that's what we did. And I think that was important
Mhm.
because if you're thinking about it, oh, well, we're going to film this, so we're going to do it differently. It's like, but wait, you're then not honoring the medium for which it was written. So we're not a film and we're not a play
Mhm.
because a play is done in the theatre live in front of an audience. We're this hybrid thing.
Mhm.
And we've called it a film stage production. Why do we do that? Why don't we just call it a film? Because of expectation. So if
Mhm.
I say to you, oh, you're going to see a movie, and you come and you're like, what is this? This is really weird.
Mhm.
We need to tell people, well, actually, this was put together as a play. This is a play, but we filmed it. We filmed it because of COVID. In fact, that's something that Liz has asked for just recently. She said, do you think we can put something like, in fact, I need to write this down. I think it's too late for Saturday, but going forward, I need to ask Bridget. She is going to be, she's on our board, but she's a filmmaker, Bridget Stokes. And she is amazing and she knows everything about film because she's a filmmaker. She's an Emmy Award winning filmmaker. I need to ask her about that one slide at the beginning saying this is a play.
Mhm.
I mean, not exactly those words.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Didn't mean to distract from the interview, but
Yeah.
I thought it was important because it is something Liz has asked for
Mhm.
so that people know what they're going and what they're going to be seeing.
Mhm.
Because if somebody knows, oh, it's not actually a movie the way the way we think of film, right?
Mhm.
Then we're not going to be disappointed. But if you think you're going to go to see a film and what you're seeing is this hybrid work, you could be disappointed. And why
Mhm.
do that to people? And also, why do it to the artists and why do it to the playwright? And why do it to me as a director? It's like if you
Definitely.
prepare everyone, this is what this is, then I actually think they're going to be positively surprised, like they're going to be happy because it's like, wow, this is different.
Mhm.
This isn't exactly like a play, you know, because we do these jumps and we don't see necessarily people going on and off stage. We are filming it like a film, but I can go along with that. And of course, there are moments that are much slower than you would normally allow in a film. But that's theatre.
Definitely. For theater, producing costs and getting a play produced is quite an expensive thing, quite a difficult thing to get accomplished. For film, especially independent film, there's obstacles, and this seems like a new concept that you're bringing to film. Was there any obstacles in getting this produced?
Well, the primary one was we had a pandemic. So we were literally coming out of the pandemic. People were beginning to go to the theatre with masks and precautions and all the rest of it, obviously. We had to comply with SAG rules because obviously Screen Actors Guild
Mm-hmm.
is the union for film. And so we actually had to have I don't even, a COVID compliance officer,
Mm-hmm.
a CCO, which added $10,000 to the budget. That was an obstacle. All the stuff we had to add. I'm not saying we shouldn't have done it. Of course, we should have done it. It's just that we didn't know how much it was going to cost when we went into it. It was really a lot more expensive than we thought. And then there's the tests, and then there's the masks, and I don't know what else we did. But we did everything we were supposed to do. So basically, you're hiring another person that you normally wouldn't need to have. And it does also slow things down because you have to do the test. You have to wait a certain amount of time, because we did 2 tests. We did I don't remember what it's called, but it's the one you send off to a lab. So it's the sort of more intense test. And then we did the regular tests that you wait for 15 minutes or half an hour, or whatever it was at that time, just to make sure that you can actually take your mask off when you are being filmed. That was really important. Well, everyone knows about this at this point, but for, it was a thing, right? So that was definitely an obstacle. Another obstacle is that I had only ever done one other film stage production, which was a very different experience, because we had a director, we hired a director, and what we had hired them to do was to actually film the work that we did. And what they wanted to do was bring it much more into the world of film. So they added a lot of their own, I guess, creative stamp to it, which isn't what we hired them for. So we kind of got into a situation. And unfortunately, that film stage production may never be seen. But it was still a wonderful experience. It was still good to have done it. And hopefully it will be seen at some point. But for me, the mission has always been, for like literally 40 years, ever since I started in the theatre, I always said, this is ridiculous. Look at how much work we put into this. And then it's gone. I'm not saying we should change that, but I'm saying we should film it. We should film it for posterity. We should film it because look at all the work we've lost. Like, what a waste. I mean, yes, some things you wouldn't film. Like you might do a production, it's in development, it's more like a workshop. Okay, it's not worth to film. It costs so much money. You have to make decisions on what's worth it. We obviously felt stop motion was worth it. And what other obstacles? It's like what they say. I have never had children, but it's like what they say about having children. You give birth and you forget how awful it was. Well, apparently you must forget, because otherwise I don't think half the women would do it again, or half the people would do it again, right? Because it's massive. That's kind of what theatre's like. And I would imagine what every major project is like. You have a passion, you love what you do, it carries you through, but it is tough. But it's like that every time, I would imagine. But you forget, and then you do it again.
Definitely. And for you as a director, your writer seems to be very connected to this story and be very passionate about it. As a director, how do you keep being respectful to what they want while having your own artistic vision?
It's very interesting, but this may not be something directors want to hear, or some directors want to hear. But I believe as a director, you have various responsibilities. But your first responsibility is to your writer. You see, that's where the difference is in theatre and film. Because from what I understand, that's not, I mean, listen, I don't know, but I am very much about, and this is what we're like in the theatre, this is the script. You speak the lines as written in the script. You don't go off inventing your own lines. I mean, unless you're doing that sort of a project. I mean, again, theatre, there's no such rigid rules. I mean, there's all sorts of experimental theatre where it's more collaborative, where it's a group putting it together. It's not one writer. There are many different ways of doing theatre, but the kind of theatre that we're talking about right now is we've awarded a writer for their work, for their writing, for this particular piece, but we're also supporting them as a writer because we feel that they have a commitment to the art of writing theatre. So what are we going to do? We're going to start changing everything? No, you have to do the words as written. And then you have to get behind the words, what's not being said. And so for me, that investigation is so exciting. It's actually what's in there, what's the world between the words, behind the words, underneath the words that aren't spoken. That's the world you're creating. That's the layer I believe you bring as a director, hopefully actors, because you're bringing them along and you are respecting their artistry. You want them to bring. It's very boring if you just do what you think. I mean, that's really boring. Obviously designers. And sometimes I feel that an obstacle, and this was an obstacle for us, I did not have proper understanding about the sound design in film, but that actually gets added later. We're used to doing sound design because we have to have it, right? We're helping an audience. I mean, we're telling a story. And one of the threads, one of the ways in which a story is told is through sound. And sound's actually really important to me. But that's not how it is in film. You're not actually recording the sound design. In fact, we didn't have any of the sound design. The actors had to remember what was there, knowing it was going to be added later. That was an obstacle. There was also the obstacle, those technical things that we had to learn, which is there is a television on, or a monitor. It's not a television, excuse me. It's a monitor through which Zan, our principal character, or our protagonist, she's filming. Well, it's supposed to be a stop motion doll, but the stop motion doll looks a lot like her mother and has the same coat as her mother. And so that's where the story becomes, to me, very, very interesting. It's an artist who's dealing with her relationship with her mother, who had either a stroke or something like a stroke many years ago, has not spoken a word, who she, after her father dies, becomes the primary caregiver for, and develops a whole nother language, which you have to. If you're a caregiver with somebody who you've known for a really long time and then they don't speak, you have to learn a different way of communicating with them. And she does. And she invents a whole language, and she creates these little films, the stop motion works around her relationship with her mother. And then we find out other things later. I don't want to give away the whole story, but that was really interesting. But the technical aspect was difficult because we had to show it on the screen, but we're also filming it. So we wanted it to be shown in a certain way. So that was actually quite challenging. We had to hire an expert for that with all the cabling, and I don't even know half of it. And Liz helped, and that was definitely a challenge. And then the other challenge is the lighting, because we light for theatre. Well, that doesn't work for film. So we had to recreate what the mood, that we had created it for the production, what we had rehearsed, but for film, completely different. And I don't think we succeeded 100%. I think there's some daytime, nighttime stuff that, had we only created it for film, we would have done that better. But you know what? We learned, right?
As you bring this to the film festival circuit and you get to see it with an audience, what do you hope that the audience takes away from this?
I hope they take a lot of things away. I hope I don't want to give away too much. I hope they understand Sharon, who's the mother, her decision. I hope they understand the relationship, the very amazing relationship between Zan and her mother. I hope they understand a little bit about stop motion, because this is something I had to learn about. Didn't know about stop motion. I hope they understand what Liz wanted to get across in terms of the real challenges of caregiving. And I'm assuming the real challenges that the person who needs the caregiving also goes through. We do touch on that, maybe not as much as some people would have liked. But again, we very much believe at Parity that you tell the story your playwright wants to tell. There are people who say, yeah, but they should have done it this way, or maybe this way would have been better. It's like, yeah, that's fine. That's your story. This is Liz's story. We're very strict about that. And that means that sometimes you don't go into production because you don't have the same, you develop a work, but ultimately you don't necessarily have a vision that aligns. Or maybe you've done such a great job in development that the playwright is able to go off to a bigger and better opportunity. Or maybe I should say bigger and brighter, because we're small. It doesn't mean it's better, but it's bigger and brighter. Anyway, I don't know if I've answered your question. I'm really good at going off on tangents.
Oh, you did. Well, lastly, congratulations once again. And thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for spending some time chatting about this film.
You're very, very welcome. And I hope people enjoy it. And I'm sorry I'm not going to be there because I would love to see it on a big screen with an audience. But we're in New York. This is in LA. It's expensive to fly. And unfortunately, we're also in our biggest fundraising time. So I have to focus because I get to do the fun stuff. I also have to fundraise for the company. So thank you for taking the time to speak with me about Stop Motion by Liz Kerin.